final day here, well, just that's the definitive LP of the tribute singers, the group I worked with. Incidentally, Dr. Tunde Adegbola was at the Thanksgiving service at the opening of this exhibition last Sunday. That's some of my old records, classical, pop, and the 33 RPM, the typical turntable with which we played these records. All these are the 45 RPM records, and these are 33 RPM. There are also some records that are somewhere in between the 33 and the 45. They were, I think, 75 RPM. VHS cassettes, typical in those days. This is VHS also. Yeah, VHS. VHS. All these are video home system, typically used in the home. Basic, typical recorders and players we used for them. These were the typical the amplifier and radio tuner, Akai, of those days. Another JVC VHS recorder player. JVC happens to be the company that actually developed the VHS video home system, where others like Panasonic and many others joined, except Sony. Sony did Betamax, while JVC did VHS, and VHS happened to be the more popular one. This is a typical celluloid film, the kind of thing in which cinema productions were made in those days. And on the edge you have the sound, and in between you have the video. These are typical Sony U-matic. U-matic was the professional tapes, one of the first few professional tapes used, and these were the kind of things you will find in radio stations. These are audio cassettes. These are the way by which when we moved from the vinyl disc, see one that actually has something. When we moved from the vinyl disc to audio recording, or this even video 8. This is the typical video cassette for the video 8 video I showed you earlier on. Yes, all these are video 8. Yeah, this is video 8. Typical audio cassette recorder player. Yeah, this is audio cassette. Now, this is how we used to store audio, and this was the medium I used to store my computer programs on the Spectrum ZX81 in 1982-83, thereabouts. Well, here are some old conference bags, probably about 1/10 of the conference bags in my stack somewhere at home, just to show the range of meetings I've been and the various things. So that's it, what you have there. All this I got from the Federal Radio Corporation when I was invited to give a lecture there on ICT in broadcasting. These ones are, when I turned 60, my students put up an exhibition titled "What TA Taught Me." So these are some of the posters they used. This is from Dayo Oluokun. Dayo Oluokun was an undergraduate student at the Obafemi Awolowo University. She did speech synthesis, Yoruba speech synthesis, for our undergraduate project, and then went on to actually do the speech synthesizer in yorubanames.com, with which Yoruba names are converted. Another exhibit, another poster, this time from David Adefe Ogunshade, School of Computing, University of Leeds, UK. He did his project on P-Solar, which is a way of changing the tones of Yoruba speech, something that's not that important in English, but is very, very important in Yoruba. Another one, Tolu Ashubiaro, a strategy for word language. When you look at, when you take a typical Yoruba text, you find that there are some non-Yoruba words in it, like usually English. So what we did here was to find a way for the computer to automatically detect and differentiate that these words are not Yoruba words, they're English words, so that they do not confuse the language model. Well, typical day in my office. That's my office. My Arai helmet, because I used to be a biker, a proud biker for that matter. This is the plaque I got from Change a Life Foundation, which was delivered by the great Governor Raji Fashola of Lagos State, who later on provided the only source of funding for our project that came from Nigeria, the Lagos State Council for Research Development. And that's my Arai helmet, good old protector of my skull. Another exhibit, and what he taught me, is from Adiola Opashade, then now an associate professor. What she did was to use the way people write to detect their first language. So when her computer software, computer model takes what you have written, she can tell what is your first language based on the way you write your English. And this was used to discriminate between writers of English that they claimed were 419 writers from Nigeria. Another project, you see the Ayu board there, because I always use this game, Ayu. The Igbos call it Ncho. I think the Nupe call it Kalokalo. It's called Awari, it's called Nankala in some other African traditions, but it's a beautiful, magnificent game to teach computer programming. I wonder why every department of computer science in Nigeria doesn't use it. It is a fantastic way of teaching, even to teach artificial intelligence. Another text to speech synthesis of Yoruba language. This was an undergraduate project by Familiar Idowu. Another success in our work. Now, I talked earlier on about my few Agbada. This is the Agbada I inherited from my grandfather, by my paternal grandfather. Brilliant material, brilliant fabric. And I'm the third generation owning this now, and it still looks pristine. That's hundreds of years of fabric, of clothes manufacturing in Nigeria. In fact, in the 1400s, the Portuguese used to come and buy this fabric from Yoruba land. They called it Jubu cloth because they bought it from the Ijebu. The Ijebu went inland to buy it from the Iseyin. And that's why today you still find a major Ijebu settlement in Iseyin. But because the Portuguese bought it from the Ijebu, they sold it to their people in Europe as Jubu cloth. It is most unfortunate today that the choice clothing for Nigerians is Ankara, what they call the Dutch wax. So we now buy from the Dutch what the Portuguese bought from us many years ago. Now we have here a number of TV shows. Many radio stations, television stations invite me as commentator. So I just put here a few of the examples. This was when Governor Raji Fashola presented me the award, Silent Achiever Award, in 2012. Okay. Well, this, I told you I don't wear agbada. This is the agbada I inherited from my maternal grandfather. Highly, highly prized holding, because this is one of the finest of Yoruba fabric. It's called etu, and have a complete agbada, the inner wear and the trousers. Now, because I don't wear agbada, I also don't wear caps. But each time a member of my family gets married, naming ceremony, in all these occasions that Yoruba people do ashoebi, well, they give me my own, and I make my cap, and I keep it at home in a display like this, and I tag this display Akibinuri. Akibinuri is a typical Yoruba aboro, which is you say a part of the statement and the listener is supposed to make up the end. And the complete statement is Akibinuri Kafifila de Ibadi. You don't, because you have a problem with your head, wear your cap on your waist. So even though I don't put my cap on my head, I don't put it on my waist, I put it on a display like this. That's Akibinuri for it. Now this seat I got from the Africa Regional Center for Information Science, ARCIS, Africa Regional Center for Information Science, the University of Ibadan, when I turned 60. I think this kind of seats are supposed to be used by old men. So I've been seen as an old man since I was 60. Yeah, more video. Pardon? Yeah, I've talked about it. More videos. This video, very interesting, serendipitous video. I was in Sao Tome and Principe, invited by the UNICEF, International Alert, and UNDP to do a kind of assessment of the media space in Sao Tome and Principe. And I was staying in the same hotel with some Nigerian journalists from NTA that came to cover the gifting of Christmas lagis to Sao Tome, the country Sao Tome and Principe from Nigeria. They bought in bags of rice and vegetable oil, and I learned that every family in the country got a present from Nigeria. This was some 15, 20 years ago. And one of the journalists found out that I was Nigerian, and he interviewed me. You can see it was before I started wearing glasses. This was an interview by School Talk, talking about education in Nigeria. People consult me a lot about education in Nigeria. I am passionate about education in Nigeria. I don't think I've ever had the right I've talked about it. I've not had the right atmosphere to talk about my feeling about education in Nigeria. Maybe a little at the TEDx Port Harcourt when I was invited to talk about education. Well, this is a video one of my former students just took from the back at a lecture I gave at Edinburgh University. What had happened was that there was a PhD position in Edinburgh, and for the first time, 5 students, not one, from Nigeria applied. Before then, nobody applied for anything in human language technology, computational linguistics, natural language processing. This was in 2015, 2016. It was strange to us. And 5 students in one go applied. And the strange thing was that the 5 students gave me as their referee. So the professor got in touch with me and asked me, what's going on in Nigeria? We have 5 people applying for this position. He said, well, maybe we should just forget about the interview. You just tell me who to pick. And I said, well, really the person I will ask you to pick is already with you in Edinburgh, because one of my students who got a scholarship through this, the Preside, I think they called it, when at the twilight of President Jonathan's presidency, he gave scholarships to any Nigerian that had a first class or 2-1 and was admitted to, I think, 25 or 45 most recognized universities in the world. And about 10 of my students got onto that scholarship scheme. So one of them was in Edinburgh, but she didn't want to have anything to do with language. She was more interested in robotics and the kind of things Nigeria see as artificial intelligence, not the less showy things. So I said, well, if you can convince her to do language tech, she's probably one of the best. And I think that's it. Everything else, nothing more. Thank you. Well, I started my life as an engineer in electricity distribution. I worked for NEPA, which was National Electric Power Authority. I undertook my National Youth Service or scheme with NEPA in Zaria, and I think I impressed them and they retained me and posted me to Abeokuta. But it was from Abeokuta I left electric distribution and went into broadcasting by starting my work with the Ogun State Radio, OGB, Ogun State Radio Corporation. But not long after I started my work with Ogun State Radio Corporation, the Ogun State government started a television station, and I was one of the engineers that was seconded from OGBC to work with OGTV. And what we have along this area are a number of cameras that we used in those days. This, for example, the Panasonic AG-EZ1 is a camera in itself, and the recording is usually carried on a sling package. So you needed 2 people to cover video assignments. At the back, you have connections through which you connect the audio to an audio recorder, connect the video to a video recorder, and you carry that on a sling bag, and the person carrying the bag follows the cameraman. So these are really early. That's the thing about digital technology. Now this is an improvement on that. The camcorder, the concept of the camcorder, the camera and the recorder together. That's why they call them camcorders. And this is an early video format, the Video High 8, which is a kind of semi-professional standard in video recording in those days. This were not much of this went on in Nigeria, but being a consultant to many of the early production houses that were involved in the Nollywood industry, some of them used High 8, which I recommended and supported them with. Now this is an early 16mm, 8mm, I think this actually is, film recorder. It's not video, it is celluloid photochemical, in which the light catalyzes chemical reactions according to the color of light, and that is what is used to record. This is another camcorder. This is a home domestic camcorder. It's an improvement on the early domestic camcorders. The VHS stands for Video Home System. But to create a kind of semi-professional format was the SVHS, the Super VHS, which some TV stations used, more so that towards the time I left public service broadcasting, television stations were beginning to broadcast with VHS, which was one of the reasons why I thought I should leave. Here you have the Polaroid camera. This was the earliest cameras that produced pictures instantly. That is what gave birth to the notion in Nigeria of wait and get. Yeah. And these are some of the lenses, batteries used for some of those things. This is a camcorder. With time, with the miniaturization of technology, it then became possible to hold the camera, the recorder, everything in one hand. And that's what gave birth to the concept of handicap. Some other cameras, these are some the basic photographic cameras, not motion picture. This is a motion picture camera. Some of the Handycam Video 8, which was a precursor to the High 8. It's basically a domestic format, but with the High 8, you had a semi-professional. And these are some of the more ordinary cameras that people use to take pictures around. Are we going to do it with all this noise? Can you? Now this exemplifies some of my early days in ICT. This is a 30 gigabytes digital drive. In those days, storage was big deal. I remember my first computer is Spectrum ZX81, I think. Had only 1 kilobyte of memory, no hard disk, no auxiliary memory. Each time I switched on the computer, I had to type in the program all over again from the beginning. But I then later got an audio cassette recorder with which I was able to record my programs, which made them last for some time. Typical disk drive that delivered fast data transfer, the IEEE 1394, popularly referred to as Firewire. This preceded the USB, some of the fast USBs, Universal Serial Bus we had these days. At that time, the IEEE was probably the only consumer format that could deliver video at a decent rate. Now, the final side bay here is my collection of musical instruments from all over the world. These I think I got from Sao Tome and Principe. This is from South Africa. This I got from the UK. This, I think, Mali. I got this from Mali. This I got from Kathmandu, Nepal, Kathmandu. It looks very much like the Yoruba Bata drum, but it's not. It's actually the Nepalese drum. There are some of the the precursors of the harp. And of course, this is the typical Yoruba gong, which is a talking drum. This I relate very, very closely to this drum because this is the drum on which I predicated my PhD thesis. That based on the fact that if it is possible to speak with drums and people can understand, you use the drum to hear you at a party and you acknowledge the musician. It's a very, very special thing which we have not taken due account of because very many languages in the world cannot be spoken with drums, but the Yoruba language happens to be one of the few that can be spoken with drums, and we do it. This is the djembe, which is very popular in West Africa. These I bought from Senegal when I was working in Senegal. Another of the gongon ensemble. This usually is given a high tension and used to give them background rhythm to the. This South Africa, this flute I got from I think Liberia, and this is the bow of this instrument, which is a precursor of the violin I got from Ethiopia, and these are just basic rattlers. So that's it for the. So what do we do next?